Good morning. My name is Richard Duffy. I am the Acumatica industry evangelist, and on behalf of our partners at Intelligent Technologies Incorporated and the entire team at Acumatica here in the US and indeed around the world, I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, which is part of our Acumatica Industry Insights series. And what we're going to be focusing on today is we're going to be focusing on the professional services industry. And our agenda for today's session looks something like this. I'm going to be the primary presenter, and then later in today's presentation, Mitch Jacobs, who is the Director of Sales at Intelligent Technologies, is also going to join me for a little bit of an open Q&A and an introduction to intelligent technologies and to explain to you how intelligent technologies can assist you as you go through the process of evaluating solutions for your professional services business. But the primary function of today's webinar is to really share some information with you. It's not going to be to give you, a 1-hour demonstration of the Acumatica solution. But what we really want to do is share some information with you which you may find helpful as you think about your future plans for your organization in the professional services industry. So we're going to touch briefly on an industry profile. We're also going to look at a little bit at the industry forecast. We're going to look at a snapshot of some of the trends and opportunities in the industry. I'm then going to take you through a number of the things that we believe and that we have heard are going to be important for organizations in the professional service industry to be looking at. And we're going to drill down on that, looking at it from a role-based perspective. So, as a CEO, what do you need to be thinking about? As a chief financial officer, what are some of the key things that are going to be important to you? If you're responsible for the information technology strategy inside your organization, what are some of the things that you need to be thinking out, and so on. Then we're going to look a little bit about how you can utilize technology in your organization to help you take advantage of some of these trends and opportunities that we've identified as we go through. And then we'll wrap up with, again, as I said, an overview of intelligent technologies, and Mitch is going to explain who intelligent technologies are at that stage just briefly, and how you can take some next steps as you go through the follow-up process around this. So then with that, what I would like to do is really launch into the main part of today's session. So if you think about it, there's a couple of key things for organizations in the professional services space. Now, I know we have a fairly mixed audience for today's presentation. We have a number of folks who are in the professional services industry, and as well as that, we also have people from a variety of other industries as well. So I think it might just be a good idea to quickly touch on, what professional services is all about. And fundamentally, if you think about it, companies in the professional services space are really focusing on the provision of services for a number of different industries. You traditionally think about professional services firms. They can be quite diverse, in industries like accounting, advertising and marketing, architects, general consulting firms, engineering, IT firms, legal firms, even right down to the level of scientific research services firms. So there is a fairly diverse group of organizations that are in this particular industry. And no doubt, as participants in today's webinar who are from those industries, you will hopefully recognize your firm in one of those industry areas. Now, you'll also know that there's a fairly strong competitive landscape in the professional services industry. And interestingly enough, certainly here in the United States, the demand for professional services is very, very tightly linked to the profitability of the customers that you service. And also, it's very tightly linked to the overall health of the economy. And that's not just here in the United States, but that's all around the world. If you think about it in many scenarios, professional services being something that for many organizations is a demand driven process. It's one of those things that as the economy tightens, that reliance on external service providers does tend to be cut back. So there is a little bit of a lag, both forward and backward, with the demand for professional services. We'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit more detail shortly. If you think about it, and think about it from your perspective as a professional services organization, the profitability of your organization really does depend on having a regular flow of projects and being able to manage those projects effectively. So I'm going to talk about that in a little bit more detail as well. Now, from a size perspective, whether you're a large organization or mid-size or smaller organization, I think it's clear that one of the advantages that professional services firms can utilize is being able to offer a diverse range of services. So one of the things that we're going to talk a little bit about is taking advantage of that particular trend, looking at how you can diversify your services. But of course, one of the keys to service diversification is to make sure that you have the right tools and technologies in place to help you, A, manage those effectively, B, identify which of those are the most profitable, and C, be able to respond to that very, very quickly in terms of gearing up or slowing down in those particular areas. So visibility into what is happening is really a key issue for organizations in the professional services space. Now, if you think about it, when organizations in professional services are looking for solutions, there's a broad variety of things that they can look at depending on the specific industry. For example, the requirements that you have as a legal services firm are very, very different from the requirements that an IT services firm has, which again are very, very different from the requirements that a accounting practice may have. But there are a number of key things which are consistent across all of those different firms. And we're going to touch on those in a little bit more detail. So then let's talk briefly around a couple of those areas. And let's look at it from an industry forecast perspective. One of the things that one of the things that I've done in preparation for today's presentation is I've been doing quite a bit of research into what's happening in the professional services field. And a couple of these things I've already touched on. And from looking at external providers of research on the professional services industry, looking at US Department of Commerce research, one thing is very, very clear, is this tie that I talked about before, the tie between corporate profits and the demand that exists for professional services firms. One of the other things that is very, very clear is that profitability in professional services firms does come down to labor efficiency and being able to effectively manage a regular flow of work. So if you think about it as an organization, where is the risk that you need to be keeping in the back of your mind? Well, the risk that you need to be keeping in the back of your mind is that the overall health of the economy impacts spending on services. So one of the opportunities that we certainly see for people in the professional services field is to look at diversifying their offerings, look at diversifying the mix of services that they provide, and also look at diversifying potentially the markets in which you operate. Now, none of us underestimate what is involved in making that a reality. So I don't make that recommendation lightly. For example, the costs involved in expanding your organization, expanding your services out to encompass new geographies. For example, moving into European markets or moving into Asian markets or whatever the case may be. It can be a high risk strategy, but there are things that you can do to mitigate risk. And we're going to talk about some of those things as we progress today. So then if you think about your industry and where you fit into the bigger picture, the professional, scientific, and technical services industries accounted, well, this is certainly in 2010, and has only grown, accounted for 7.5% of gross domestic product in the United States. And another sector, for example, that's also included under professional services is the real estate sector, and it accounted for an additional 12.7% of gross domestic product in the US in 2010. So it's clear that the professional services industry is a big driver of employment and a big driver of income and revenues across the United States. But the interesting thing is, if you look at how the professional services space has been growing between 2013 and what the expectations are for growth in your industry, the expectation is that there will be a compounded rate of growth of approximately 5% between 2014 and 2018. So what does that mean? Well, that means that there are opportunities out there, and the challenge is to be able to go out and grab those opportunities and take advantage of those opportunities in a professional way, or in a profitable way, rather, I should say. So what are the industry trends? Again, this issue of the fact that revenue often lags the economy. As the economy slows down, the slowdown in billing, the slowdown in revenue generation in professional services is usually a couple of months behind. And then as the economy then begins to pick up and organizations start to spend again, obviously their spend that they put out with professional services firms tends to lag a little bit behind that. So as you do your planning, I think one of the things that is key is to really have the ability to get great visibility into the projects that you have coming, the projects that you have executed, and what the profitability trends are with those, and also what the cash flow trends are with all of those projects. So visibility there is the key. And visibility really comes down to how effectively you're being able to use technology. So one of the things that many of your peers in firms just like yours are focused on as they go forwards is really looking at how they can utilize technology to drive that efficiency, to drive that visibility. And with more than 770,000 firms employing more than 7.4 million people in the professional services space, one of the things that is going to be key is making sure that you have the right solutions to put access to that technology in the hands of the people who need it. And one of the things that we're seeing, and I'll talk a bit more about this in a second, is really the impact of mobile technology and how mobile technology is driving collaboration. Because fundamentally with professional services, it really is about people working with people, the people inside your organization working with the people inside your client firms, and making sure that there is a great collaboration. The knowledge that you have as a professional is critical. But what's also critical is your ability to share that knowledge with your customers and to collaborate with them effectively. So technology really does have a major impact on how you do that. The third trend that we're actually hearing about from organizations is this idea of really starting to look more at the value-oriented billing. Okay, traditionally, for many organizations in the past, it was really about the number of billable hours. Okay, some of the key metrics that professional services firms would look at were things like utilization rates. Billable hours, were those billable hours trending upwards or downwards? But one of the things that we're really seeing now, uh, as we talk to organizations in professional services firms, is that there is a trend towards looking at the value that they deliver with their services, and looking at how do they leverage that value in their billing. What do I mean by this? So it's moving away from this idea of an hourly rate and billing for those hourly rates, really to looking at what is the impact of the services provided. Even in the software industry, we're seeing organizations now who bill their licenses for their software on the basis of the net improvement that an organization realizes as a result of utilizing that software. So I think as you do your planning for 2000 and for the remainder of 2014 and into the next 3 to 5 years, one of the things that really is becoming key is thinking about that value that you deliver. What is the bottom line impact that that has with your clients, and how you can potentially leverage that bottom line impact and drive increased revenues for you as an organization, without necessarily focusing on that traditional number of hours billed and so on and so forth. The advantage of this, of course, is that it opens up new opportunities for you in terms of keeping your people internally engaged in the process. So as your value-oriented billing increases, one of the things that becomes more and more important is your ability to build the skills of your people inside your organization, and then to be able to turn that into value for your customers. Because again, in a value-oriented billing environment, that's really where the revenue increases are coming from. So then I would ask you to think about, and no doubt you are. So this might seem a little bit pointless to raise this, but oftentimes we're so close to the coalface in our organizations. We're so close to being, out there delivering revenue, generating revenue every day. I would like to encourage you, if you can, to take some time, take a couple of hours, maybe this week, maybe next week, maybe on the weekend, and give some thought to these three key trends and think about, how do you see those impacting on your business in 2014? And then how do you see your organization changing over the next couple of years? And give some thought to that. Because one of the things that I think is really, really important when you're looking at the investments that you are making is thinking about, what is the value? What is the value that you're going to get from those investments? Whether it's investments in people, whether it's investments in training, or whether it's investments in infrastructure. So I would encourage you to think about three key things as you go through this. Think about, what is your vision? Where do you want your firm to be in 3 months? Where do you want the firm to be in 12 months? Where do you want the firm to be in 3 years? And how will you know when you've gotten there? What are the indicators that you're going to use to tell you where or when you have reached that goal? And those really do need to be very, very closely managed and monitored. But what are those indicators? Is it going to be something like your billable hours? Is it going to be utilization rates? Or is it going to be average revenue per customer? And looking at that as being more important than the number of hours that you bill. So spend some time thinking about that. And then most importantly, after you've identified what your vision is, and you've identified what the measures are that are going to show you when you've reached that point, then I would encourage you to think about the pains that are stopping you from getting there. What are the things that you need to do inside your organization to help you get there? And of course, from an Acumatica perspective, and from the perspective of our partners at ITI, one of the things that's going to be important is how effectively you use technology. Because technology is going to help you take advantage of a number of these industry opportunities. One of the things that we're seeing in professional services, and it does vary from industry to industry. So if you're in accounting services, or if you're in IT, or perhaps you're in the legal space, there's really a greater complexity of corporate operations that is coming into play depending on your industry. I think it's clear that the amount of regulation that we all have to deal with in our industries is certainly not getting any less. Whether or not you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, I think in many industries it's viewed as a bad thing, but you fundamentally have to be prepared to manage that. So I think there is an opportunity to get ahead of the curve in thinking about what do you need to do to manage your corporate operations to ensure that your profitability is not impacted by these things. Another area that's an area of opportunity is this area of corporate outsourcing. More and more organizations today are looking at some of those internal services that they would traditionally hire people in for. And they're looking at saying, well, how do we take that service and how do we outsource it to another organization? Now, in the industry in which we work, in the IT industry, some of the largest companies in our market are now outsourcing whole areas of their internal, if you like, shared or internal services into what they call shared services. So if it's operational areas, if it's areas around contract management, areas around billing, areas around things like customer service. A number of those things are being outsourced. So there is a huge opportunity if you have built some best practices around some of those areas to look at how do you diversify your organization and take advantage of that outsourcing trend. And the great news is, certainly here in the United States, the trend of outsourcing to overseas firms has actually started to reverse. Many organizations now are seeing the value of outsourcing to organizations inside the United States. And that's a good thing, I think, for those of us who are doing business here in the US. But don't underestimate the opportunities that exist for you to internationalize your business. For example, many US firms are now taking their business that they execute or that they drive overseas, and they are looking to partner with organizations who have that same diversity of presence. So as organizations in the US open up new opportunities and new offices in different countries, they're looking to work with organizations that also have a base here in the United States, but then have the ability to expand out into those countries. So again, I would encourage you to look at your own industry, look at your customer base, go out and talk to your customers about what it is that they're looking to do when it comes to internationalization, and see if there are opportunities there to engage with them. So where do we go from here then? If these are the trends, if these are the opportunities, then what we can then do is look at, what are the things that we need to do as the individuals inside our own organization. One of the things that we're seeing is that there are a number of key areas for specific people inside professional services firms to look at. For example, as a CEO, one of the things that we're seeing is becoming more and more important for organizations is to look at this area of professional certifications, of getting that external validation of what it is that you do, to make sure that you have all the necessary qualifications so that as you move to a more of a value-based billing structure, that you have the external validation that your people do have the right skills, qualifications, and so on. And of course, those professional certifications are important in helping to drive that. So I would encourage you as a CEO to look at that professional certification that you have. Do you need to do something strategically to identify, those folks in your organization where you could increase their value-based billing or even their hourly rate on the basis of adding additional certifications? Then also look at broadening the practice, some of those things that I just talked about, those industry opportunities. Where do the opportunities exist for your organization to go out and take advantage of some of those trends? And if you're a CFO, obviously you still have to continue to manage that regulatory compliance. But you also have to make sure that you're maintaining an investment portfolio. And when I talk about an investment portfolio, I don't just talk about this in the traditional context of, managing your cash investments or managing real estate investments or whatever. I'm actually talking about investing in some of those other resource areas, looking at the people, because traditionally the HR function will fall under finance and operations. So look at how you're investing in your people as well. Do you have the necessary programs in place to make sure that you're keeping your people, the skills of your people up to date and in line with that expectation that your customer base has? If you're the vice president of sales and marketing, I think one of the things that's becoming very, very clear is it is really, really important to make sure that your firm manages and enhances and grows its reputation. So publicizing the accomplishments of your organization become very, very critical. Having a really good social media engagement with your existing customers and potential customers becomes very, very important with this. And leveraging the professional journals that your customers read and taking advantage of the accomplishments, the projects that you've worked on, building case studies around those projects, getting the word out about the business value that you have delivered to your customers becomes important as well. And then, of course, if you're responsible for the information systems inside your organization, one of the key things that becomes important is making sure that your systems continue to be secure. And as growth becomes a focus for the rest of the people inside your organization, that growth needs to be profitable growth. Now, how do you drive profitable growth? Well, you drive profitable growth through automation. So making sure that your support systems that you're putting in place inside the organization do provide for a greater level of automation. So you're not relying on people to drive many of these processes. And we'll talk about that shortly. So then let's talk about technology in the professional services space. And I think there are 4 key trends that I've certainly seen people talking about. And the first trend really links back to a couple of those key points we've already talked about. And in professional services, you are only as good as the people whose time and services that you are billing out. So there's really an opportunity to take your talent management to the next level, to think about, how you're managing your people effectively, how you're managing their skills, developing those skills, giving your people opportunities to grow. So one of the things that we're seeing is an increased focus on utilizing some of these next generation cloud-based applications to improve your employee utilization, to improve that skill development, and to manage costs. Worldwide spending, in fact, on these kinds of solutions is expected to grow 22% to almost $4 billion in the next couple of years. Now, these figures I'm quoting here are for 2012, 2013, and these come from Deloitte Consulting, and these numbers have not been updated recently. But one of the things that we're seeing is that this number continues to grow. So that means if you're not one of the organizations who are currently spending on this, then certainly your competitors are. So you need to factor it into your strategy. I'm not saying you absolutely have to do it, but you need to think about it. Spending on learning and development grew 12% in 2013. And that's the highest growth rate in more than 8 years. Why? Because organizations all over the world are realizing how important it is to make sure that their people have the right skills to capture new market opportunities. And interestingly enough, in countries outside the United States, countries where it's traditionally been an outsourcing focus based on lower cost per hour, those organizations now are starting to look at developing their people and ensuring that their people have a higher level of skill so that they can do more value-added tasks. So really, it's almost like a race. It's a race to make sure that you have the right people with the right skills deployed into the right areas in the organization. Remember, I talked about the fact that there is this lag that either happens after an industry slowdown or the lag that happens before an industry tends to pick up again. What does that mean? That means that as a professional services firm, you have to be able to quickly switch on and switch off the infrastructure you need and quickly switch on and switch off the costs associated with that infrastructure as your business grows. So there is really a trend to becoming more on-demand oriented. And this information comes from Gartner, who do research on this particular topic. And one of the things that we're seeing is that because data networks are becoming more reliable, because more and more people, almost everybody has got at least one or sometimes two mobile devices, and cloud computing is becoming more mainstream, people are now starting to take advantage of these things in the professional services space. Now, interestingly, professional services firms have always been big adopters of mobile technology. Why is that? Well, of course, your people are best utilized when they're out there with customers. But the challenge then, of course, is to make sure that you're effectively capturing what it is that they're doing, capturing expenses, billings, and so on. In the past, it used to be a case that was quite a difficult process because people had to come back into the office, or you had to have, a big support staff to be able to capture that information so that your valuable people weren't spending their valuable time on doing billing tasks and compliance reporting and so on and so forth. So this is only good news, I think, for people in the professional services industry, that they're getting an even greater prevalence of these solutions. And of course, the Acumatica solution ties in very, very nicely with this. As you're thinking about that mobile service model that you integrate with, I think it's important to determine a long-term strategy for how you're going to incorporate those mobile devices into both your internal and your customer-facing processes. Because not only will your internal people want to engage with you utilizing mobile devices, but your customers more and more will want to do that as well. They will want to have visibility into their interactions with you, visibility into what it is that you're doing for them, whether it's billing or capturing progress in project plans. They're going to want to have access to that through mobile devices. 1.6 billion smartphones will be purchased annually. That's every year around the world by 2016. And 40% of the global workforce will be mobile, and 2/3 of them will be using smartphones. And of course, tablet computers are growing as well. And that's expected to quadruple by 53 million, or quadruple to 53 million units by 2016. What does all this mean? Well, it means that the primary device of choice for accessing your systems and services will be mobile. So you need to make sure that whatever it is that you're investing in today takes advantage of that. And the fourth point comes back to this point about visibility. Visibility into the business to see what's going on. So business analytics is one of those key areas. Whatever solutions that you are investing in going forwards need to have a strong component that help you manage the business analytics, which is really about turning the wealth of available data that you have inside your systems into actionable insights. And not just insights that you get after the project is completed, but insights you get during the project execution to make sure that you can quickly respond to challenges inside the project. Are you billing? Are you billing effectively? And not just are you making sure you've billed what you've done, but are you capturing enough information about what's going on so that potentially you can bill sooner? Are you capturing information about percentage completion if you do your billing on the basis of percentage completion? The quicker you find out that you have reached those milestones, the quicker you can get those bills out the door. The quicker, of course, as you know, the quicker you get the bills out the door, the sooner you get paid. And then, of course, that has a positive cash flow impact. Think about the impact it would have if you were able to get your bills out the door 10% faster. Maybe if you're able to get 5% of your bills out, 14 days ahead of time, what would be the impact of that from a cash flow perspective? And this is where software can help you. Now, where are professional services firms investing at the moment in terms of software? Well, you'll see that business intelligence is lagging somewhat. Traditionally, organizations are investing in enterprise resource planning solutions, customer relationship management, remote service delivery, knowledge management, and human capital management. Why? Because that's really core to the business that they do. But more and more are now starting to see the value of business intelligence. So as you look at a solution, make sure the solution you are looking at does have a strong business intelligence focus. So with that, what I'd like to do is change tack for a little bit and look at specifically what are some of the key areas that are important as you go forwards, and talk about where does Acumatica play a part, or where can Acumatica play a part in that process. What Acumatica is about delivering a complete cloud-enabled solution that addresses all the core areas that an organization needs. So whether it's financial management, whether it's customer management, distribution management, if you have that aspect in your business, and project accounting. So for you as a professional services firm, the three primary areas which no doubt you are looking at are, of course, your project accounting, your customer management, and your financial management. So with the Acumatica solution, we have a comprehensive product suite that encompasses all of those key areas. So what are the ways that you can utilize the Acumatica Cloud Enterprise Resource Planning solution? Well, from an expense management perspective, there are opportunities to effectively capture and manage your timesheets, to capture, manage, and automate the process of expense reports and expense report processing, the process of capturing, managing, and allocating third-party bills across your projects. And of course, if you're a professional services firm that operates with both time and materials, there are opportunities for you to capture all of those areas. Where does Acumatica sit in that process? Well, fundamentally, it provides the central point of reference, the central system which captures all of that information and then allows you to deliver real-time project profitability reports, that allows you to deliver that automation that I was talking about as being important for your C-level executives to focus on. Flexible allocation and billing rules so that as costs come into the organization, they can be effectively and accurately allocated across to the right projects to make sure you are getting effective project profitability reporting. Acumatica also offers you what we call attributes that enable you to quickly and easily customize the deployment of the solution to meet your requirements. We're going to look at the solution in a couple of minutes. And of course, it's linked um, tightly with the financial ledgers, with your accounts receivable ledger, with your general ledger where you do all of your profitability reporting, and of course your project accounting reporting and your project accounting ledgers as well. Coming off the back end of that, of course, is being able to effectively, accurately, and in a timely manner build your customers and then generate those profitability and job tracking reports. So Acumatica offers all of that functionality to manage all of these key things. Costs get released from those front-end expense management processes. Those that get marked with a project code then flow to a project. And of course, you can then build that out. So when you think about Acumatica, what it is providing you a single solution which helps you to unlock your business potential. It helps you to take control of your business. It helps you to play to your strengths, and it helps you to empower your people. Now let's look quickly at the Acumatica solution and see how we help you do that. So what I'm going to do right now is I am going to swap across into my web browser, and I'm just going to expand this out. And you'll see right now what we're looking at is the Acumatica Cloud ERP solution. Now, fundamentally, Acumatica is built from the ground up with the cloud in mind. So what does that mean? That means the primary piece of software that you will utilize to access Acumatica is a web browser. Now, what does that mean to you from a mobility perspective? Well, any mobile device that has a web browser interface built in, and that's pretty much 99.99% of all mobile devices today, you can utilize to access the Acumatica application. And the great thing about Acumatica is it is built with those mobile devices in mind. That means Acumatica is a responsive application. So as the screen size and the screen layout changes, the Acumatica user interface automatically adapts. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So when I log into Acumatica, the first thing I get to choose is I get to choose which of my companies do I want to log into. So right now, I'm going to log into a demo data set, and I'm going to log in as the administrator. And this gives me full control over everything inside the Acumatica solution. So as I click on login, it brings me into the system, and the entire system has been customized specifically to suit me. Because Acumatica is role-based. If I am a salesperson and I log in, I get my sales dashboard. If I am a consultant when I log in, then potentially I will get my time and expenses dashboard. And managing that process is very, very simple because all I need to do is go up here into my user profile, and then I simply select which of these screens do I want to use as my home page. Right now, it's the sales dashboard, but I can simply look up here and I can say, well, when I log in, I want to see the time and expenses dashboard. And then I'll save that. And then the next time I log in, what do I see? It will take me directly into my time and expenses. So the advantage of Acumatica is it is completely role-based. You can make the system as simple as you want or as complex as you need. So what do I mean by that? You'll see inside Acumatica, there is a traditional way of navigating around the system. For example, I can say I want to go into the finance area, and I want to go into accounts receivable, and I want to go into information about managing my customers. So I can use this, this mechanism for navigating through. But I can also simplify that entire process and put that back in my dashboards, so that in my time and expenses dashboard, for example, rather than having to navigate through the menu, if I want to enter an expense report, I can just put it on my dashboard, and with one click, it can take me straight into the expense reporting functionality. So you'll see right now, I'm now in expense reporting. So from here, I can enter my expense claims. I can enter my time cards. I can manage my time activities. And I can also manage equipment that I'm utilizing as part of my projects. So if you're working in a firm that has expensive equipment that gets utilized as part of your projects, and you want to be able to effectively track and manage the utilization of that equipment, then Acumatica allows you to do all of that. So not only can I do that here, but I also have the ability to manage automated processes. So you can group those processes together and manage them on the basis of things that happen on a daily basis. For example, releasing your expense claims, taking those expenses and going through an approval process, approving the time activities, approving your time cards, which might happen on a weekly basis, or managing your recurring expense claim billing. So if you're working on a time and materials basis, or you're working on a cost plus basis, where you take the bills or the expenses and you add a markup and then charge those back, then you can automate that process. And managing all of that is done very, very quickly and easily from our configuration tab. So one of the things about the Acumatica application that make it really, really powerful is the fact that when you know how to navigate in one screen, you'll know how to navigate in all of them, because they're all laid out in a similar fashion, with your work area, with your processes, and with your configuration. For example, if I dive up here into my project, you can see the same scenario. But with projects, I have one additional area, because this is where I can also do my reports. So I can enter my project transactions. I can manage my projects, my project tasks. I can manage my project budgets. I can drill down and explore the project transactions, but I can also come up here in my reports, and I can look at reports around, for example, project profitability. At any point in time, I can go ahead and I can audit my projects. I can audit my project transactions. For example, if a customer comes back to you and they want to know in detail exactly what has been happening for a specific project, then you can go ahead and you can run your project audit reports. And you can specify these project audit reports into templates. What is a template? It's basically a way of grouping all of the key information that you want to select and then being able to run it quickly and easily. So for example, I can build a template and I can choose one of my active reports or one of my active projects, and you'll see these are all the different projects that I have. So for example, I have a service project with a fixed estimate. I can narrow that down. I can add additional sorting and filtering on the basis of all of these values that I track against the project. Who is the customer? What is the task? What are the dates relating to that task? What are the units of measure for that? Is it hours? Is it units? Whatever the case may be. So I can sort on the basis of that, and then I can filter on that as well. Again, the same scenario here. What this is allowing me to do inside my Acumatica interface is enabling me to build MySQL queries that go in and retrieve that data. Now, the beauty of this is where our partner organizations can work with you, because they have experience in utilizing the Acumatica solution to pre-build a whole range of these particular views and these particular templates, which they can deliver to you as part of their implementation. You can then specify what do you want to have happen with the deleted records. Do you want them to be hidden? Do you want them to print? And then how do you want all of this information to be presented? Do you want it to be printed into a PDF file? Do you want it to go to a printer? And then you can have multiple different versions of this report. Okay. And as you're building a new version of the report, you can then choose at a particular point in time to activate that report. So again, what's this about? This is about making sure that you have the flexibility and the ability to get that visibility into the project itself. Now, again, all of this is being done through our web browser interface. So what you'll notice is if I'm in, for example, my time and expenses, and I'm entering in expense claims, and I've got that screen open. As the screen size changes, and I'm just going to do this, if you watch carefully, you will see that all of these fields automatically redraw and adapt to the different screen size. So as I start moving down to a tablet size screen, you'll see that the buttons automatically rearrange themselves. Okay? Even when I get down to this level, where I'm now operating on the kind of screen space that I have to work with on a mobile phone, you'll see that the system is still adapting and adjusting its layout so that I can automatically still access each of these key areas. That's what we mean by responsive design. So because Acumatica is built for the cloud from the ground up, we're able to deliver on any device. So that's a little snapshot of what the Acumatica application looks like and how you can utilize or some of the functionality that's there without going into a detailed drill down of the functionality, because you'll certainly have the opportunity to do that with our partner at ITI. So with that, what I'd like to do is I'd like to just jump back into our presentation. And what I'd like to do right now is hand across to Mitch Jacobs, who is the Director of Sales at ITI. And I'm going to invite him to tell you a little bit about ITI, who they are, what they do, the value they bring to you as a professional services organization. And then we'll throw across into our Q&A session. So with that, I'm just bringing Mitch back off mute. And Mitch, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Richard. It's much appreciated, and thank you everybody for taking the time today to join us on this webinar. And just some, quick background on Intelligent Technologies. We were started as a technology spinoff from an accounting firm more than 20 years ago. So ITI has a very heavy accounting culture. Many of our consultants are CPAs, past controllers, or at a minimum have accounting degrees. So the bottom line is we're going to speak your financial language. In addition to that, we offer full network services, so we can speak fluently with both sides of the house, from the finance side to the IT side. And our job is really that interpreter, to gain an understanding of how you want to run your business and then show you options of how to best do that with the technology. Now, oftentimes that includes a custom integration of an existing system to maximize that efficiency, or just to create that ease of use. So there's not much we haven't seen in 20 years, and I can tell you after 20 years we couldn't be more excited about Acumatica as a product, and equally about Acumatica as a partner. So thanks again for joining us. Richard, back to you.
So with that, what I'd like to do is now give you the opportunity to ask any questions that you may have regarding the Acumatica solution, regarding any of the topics that we've talked about from a professional services perspective. Maybe you've got questions about the research. Maybe you've got questions about the data that I used to prepare today's presentation. So I can see there's actually a couple of questions that have come in. So the first question is, do you offer any kind of reports that present this information? And the short answer to that is yes. And to anybody who's on today's presentation, I'm more than happy to provide you with a report that talks about the professional services industry overall. However, we can go one step further. As the industry evangelist, one of the things that I can do is I can provide you with some specific reports around your particular area of the professional services space. If you're an accounting services firm, if you're a legal services firm, whatever the case may be, please feel free to reach out to Mitch Jacobs, and you'll see that Mitch has his email address here. Or you can reach out to me, and my email address is also on the screen, and I'll be more than happy to provide you with a report that's specifically tailored to your area in the professional services space. So another question, again on the source of information that's come in. The question, the person is asking the information that I am quoting, where does some of that come from? Well, a lot of it actually comes from some research that I've done out on the internet. And there's some really great research sources. And another one that I would make available to you if you're interested is a report from the US Commerce Department on what's happening in the professional services space. So again, that's another report that I'm more than happy to share with you after today's presentation. And somebody else has asked, is the presentation being recorded? And that's one of the people who joined us a little bit late. Yes, the recording is being, the presentation is being recorded, and we'll make that recording available to you after today's session. And just checking the Q&A pod to see if there are any more questions. Nope, there does not appear to be. And actually, that's perfect timing because that brings us right to the top of the hour. So with that, I would like to thank you on behalf of all of us at Acumatica. I'd like to thank you for joining today's presentation. And I would also like to thank Mitch Jacobs for co-sponsoring our presentation today. Mitch, I might pass to you to wrap up and give everybody a couple of next steps recommendations.
Well, we'll be reaching out to everybody that was on the webinar, and so give you an easy follow-up path, and we would look forward to talking to you in a little bit more detail of how we could tailor Acumatica for your needs and your business. So once again, thank you for your time.
Great. And, one of the things that we like to do is make sure that we do answer all the questions. I've just got one more question that has come in. And the question is, what is the role of Acumatica and intelligent technology? So Acumatica, we are the provider of the software. So we are the software authors. We build the Acumatica solution, and then we work together with Intelligent Technologies, who are our partner, and our partners work directly with the customers. At Acumatica, we don't work with customers. That is the role of our partner. So Mitch and his team at Intelligent Technologies come out, sit down, work with you, understand what your specific industry requirements are, and work out how they can best utilize the Acumatica solution together with other skills that they have and other service delivery mechanisms that they have and other solutions they have to effectively build a complete end-to-end solution to address the challenges that you have in your business. So hopefully that's clear. Acumatica, we write the software, and Intelligent Technologies, they make it sing specifically for your organization. So with that, that's all of our questions answered. So I'd like to thank you once again for joining today's presentation. We'll be making the session available to you after today's session. And no doubt, if you've got any questions, you should feel free to reach out to either myself or to Mitch at Intelligent Technologies, and we'll be happy to assist you going forwards. Thanks again, and have a great day.